Hello, and welcome to Power On Podcast, The Bebops. And we're going to be discussing episode 17, Mushroom Samba. With me is Mr. Sushi B. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. You ready to get a little weird?
A little weird. I'm trying to keep these intros as mixed up as possible.
You don't have to do too many more, so.
I get that, but I keep on trying to give him a little twist here and there. But yeah, and I'm Taylor. Hi. Yeah, this is where it gets. This is one of those that I think is probably a big favorite of people's. Not surprising because it's such a goofy episode compared to a lot of the more serious affairs that are all throughout, especially the preceding and the following episode. The following one is, hits a bit different, but the preceding one was a lot darker, and we go from all that sort of blood and guts to I don't know, goofiness.
Yeah.
Silly goofiness, get into the blaxploitation.
Sure do.
Sort of vibe of things, so.
Yep, it's certainly a unique episode for sure out of the bunch.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it certainly starts off pretty similar, and then it starts to skew into the silly about a third of the way through.
Yeah.
So
it was pretty far off at that point.
But yeah, what are some things you really enjoy about this episode?
I like the vibe of it. I think this really helps highlight again that this show really tried to jump into a very wide range of genres. Like we had the film noir in the last one. We have now a blaxploitation style film set in this one. Western is kind of throughout the whole series. And this one's got like a decent Western vibe, actually, too. There's a couple of things in here that are very Western-like as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Shaft brother pulling the
coffin.
Yeah, which is like Django. So, yeah, like stuff like that. So I like that. I just like that this kind of continues that trend and kind of shows appreciation for a genre that's always been a bit of a goofy genre, but I also know to some that it was a very important genre, right? Like it really helped engage a specific portion of the population and community to get some of that representation on screen, as we're starting to see a lot more now. Whether it was done appropriately is obviously questionable in a lot of ways, but there definitely were actors and heroes that came out for people at that time, and so it's kind of an interesting way to approach that in a Cowboy Bebop presentation and within the universe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is one of those things that how to put it. It's either you like it or you don't.
Yeah, I could see that.
Not even just with this episode, but with like just blaxploitation films and TV shows. It's just there's much like with any sort of genre, there's just a vibe to it that some people are just like, I really don't care for it, or they're like, oh yeah, I really enjoy it. And just kind of go from there.
Right. Yeah, it's always funny though. It seems that the characters that are sort of the outsiders, if you will, are usually like really outside. Like think about when we watched Live and Let Die and just how out of place Bond is throughout the entire movie. He's very much an outsider. Obviously, his skin color is a big part of that, but also being British. And here, Ed is very much a random outsider, but because Ed is just such a wacky character, the character just completely fits in with the craziness that's going on. Like, it doesn't feel out of place. If it was Spike or Faye or Jet, it probably would feel a lot weirder to have them.
Yeah, that's why they get all thrown onto the back burner, because it just works out better, and it'd be kind of you gotta bench. If you didn't, you'd have to bench at least two of them and just focus on one character being the one to do it. Whereas with Ed, you can just bench all three of them and then kind of ride that wherever that goes.
Right.
So yeah, this is certainly a goofy episode. I remember when I first watched it, I was just not really. Just like, this is too goofy for me. Also, Ed isn't really. I don't hate Ed, but it's not really my favorite character. So
Right.
I'm just kind of like, okay, all right.
I think you had told me this because I remember telling you this after watching this initially long ago when we were talking first about Cowboy Bebop before doing this. That this was one of my favorite episodes because it is just so bizarre, and I have a weird affinity to that genre. I haven't seen tons and tons of movies in the genre, but just there's something about it that's just so, it's such a time capsule.
Mm-hmm.
And there's still been some newer movies that have tried to utilize that genre and kind of, because it was always kind of making fun of itself to some degree, it felt. Like it was trying to be serious, but it was a little bit too wacky for its own good.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, and maybe some people might disagree with that, but I always felt that with the genre that it didn't take itself too seriously, and a lot of the sort of traits of the language used and stuff were a little more over the top than I would assume were used within black communities. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but yeah, it's just a fun episode. I like that the characters aren't. I mean, they're made fun of to some degree, but not at the expense of, again, their skin tone or anything like that. It's just made fun of because it's just so ridiculous, the scenario.
Like the coffin getting ran over.
Yeah. It's all the scenarios and them, shooting rockets at each other off of trains and like.
It's a little absurd.
It's really over the top, and Shaft like flying off, landing perfectly on the car on Coffee, who I think is supposed to be Pam Grier, basically.
Mm.
And it's just a fun, wacky episode, and a Rastafarian selling mushrooms, like.
Right. Yeah, they really kind of hit it on the nose a lot there.
Yeah. We get the three old guys show up in this.
They do show up in this one,
which makes sense because they're kind of a bit of comic relief. So
right,
it does make sense that they would show up here.
Mm-hmm. It's this also takes place on Io, which is kind of weird in a way because it doesn't really ever get explicitly stated, but you can see it on the police. The PDI and then an IO on the shoulder patches.
Okay.
And then in some of the cuts you can see what's I'm assuming is supposed to be Jupiter in the sky and stuff, when there's a big planet and stuff. It's a little, it's never really like heavily discussed or anything, which is just like, oh, okay. And then it's got a lot of like a very strong, Western town vibe, like you had mentioned. So some things that are nice. That, and there's a bit more of a play on like slow motion in a way. Like you don't really see it too often, but it does kind of pop up here and there. Just the slow motion, and I'm not entirely certain why that's the case, but
I'm not sure. But I just like the calamity of events that happens.
The calamity of events.
Well, it really is, right? You have one person chasing another who ends up having to chase another who with a fourth chasing the rest just because kind of thing. And it's just, it's so nonsensical that it's just fun. And you can kind of step away from, a lot of the other one-off episodes do tend to still deal with something fairly serious. And this, it's probably arguably the wackiest of the bunch.
Yeah, this is, I don't know of an episode that would really.
Episode 3's kind of wacky, right, in the casino and stuff. I mean,
it's not nearly
not quite as much, but
yeah,
certainly not episode 5.
Right. Yeah, I mean, especially up to this point. I know there's another episode that's really close towards the end that's I would say is on equal footing of being wacky.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Okay.
It's the episode with Andy.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember that one or
No,
not.
I don't. So.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's episode 22, Cowboy Funk, I think.
Okay. Keep it in mind when we get there.
22 or 23. I think it's 23. Now that I think about it. No, 22. It's 22. I think. I don't know. It's one of the it's 22. I'm gonna
So
say
yeah,
it's
23 and
22.
24 are coupled, are they not?
No,
Oh,
25,
that's 25,
26 are
26.
coupled.
Sorry.
23 is Brain Scratch. 24 is the one that leads into 25 and 26. So, yeah, it's episode 22. But yeah, it's ridiculous. It's, but yeah, something else I like is the different trips that the other three
Yeah.
members go on. And not only that, but also the way that they approach taking the mushrooms that Ed leaves for him just to see what they do. Faye just takes it and just is like whatever.
Yeah.
Spike's sneaky about it. Jet
Right.
philosophizes.
Right.
And he kind of it's a good insight into each of their character quirks and stuff.
Right. We don't really see Jet. Like, we see what he's doing, but we don't really see inside his head.
Yeah, that is a really good
Spike and
point.
Faye we do, but Jet we don't.
Yeah, he's much more into just kind of talking, man.
Yeah. Well, he's got my favorite line of the episode.
Oh boy.
When he's just sitting there and he's just laughing away. He's like, "Hey, the world really is a great place." He's just so gone, right?
Right.
But I like that Jet is just. I almost equate this as if when they're drunk, right? Like this would be if they were drunk, and what would these characters be like in a party, basically. And so for Jet to be like the happy drunk makes me happy to see him happy. Spike's just kind of miserable, which again feels right for him. And Faye's just like in such a bizarre place that, which kind of makes sense when we get to the next episode.
Yeah, and I kind of wonder if that isn't some sort of kind of trauma leaking out in some way, or just something. Possibly. Either trauma of something, or
put on ice for a while. So
right. The that I like the bit with the frog, where he's like, "Hey, buddy, this is a stairway to heaven."
Probably
he's like obnoxious little. Well, right, but when he's like obnoxious little frog, but like, it's also works as a dual warning. Hey, man, you're walking in place, and it's only going to lead you to your grave. I don't know if that was the intention behind it, but it certainly feels like it would be, just with how the show is put together and stuff. But
doesn't bother Spike then.
Doesn't bother him. It's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I like that too. I think it's pretty funny. There's a couple. I don't know if the writers and producers were Led Zeppelin fans, but you could potentially argue that the Stairway to Heaven is a reference. The Moby Dick sign when he's at the restaurant, because there's a song Moby Dick that's John Bonham was the drummer, and he's like the focus of that song. There's no vocals on that song. And then Black Dog.
Oh yeah, no,
from the previous episode.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's big music stuff all throughout the series. So yeah, that's not.
I just don't know if that's for sure the case, though.
I would imagine it's the case. I would.
I mean, a lot of the titles.
Dollars to donuts. I want to say.
Yeah, a fistful of donuts.
A fistful of donuts. No. No.
For a few donuts more.
For a few donuts more. The good, the bad, and the donuts.
Why does Lee Van Cleef have to be the donuts? Or no, that's not Lee Van Cleef. That would be Eli.
Oh,
What's his name? What, Wallach? Wallach or Tuco?
yeah, I can't think of his. Yeah, I can't think of what his last name is.
I can't think. It's Wallach or something like
Wallach sounds more right, but I can't. Yeah,
that.
because he is doughy and goofy
Yeah. The
and
ecstasy of
fantastic.
donuts.
The ecstasy of donuts. Oh boy.
It wouldn't change the amazing quality of that song.
Oh, a little point in this episode that I also really liked. We got another fantastic instance of jumping into somebody's car and punching them immediately, or something of the sort. I was happy to see that again because that is something that still cracks me up whenever I watch episode 2. And just to have the one Shaft brother just get into the truck and just hit that dude. It's just, it makes me laugh. It gives me the chuckles.
But Hakeem punches the guy because that's at the wedding. Is that right?
Yeah, he hops
Punches
into the car and he's like,
groom.
excuse me, sir.
Does he
And
shove him out too, or does he just punch him in the face?
Oh no, he just punches it because he hops into the car and then just punches him
Yeah.
when he leans over to be like,
Oh, excuse me, this is our wedding.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just the overall vibe for me that really gets me for this episode. It's just fun and nothing really stands out otherwise that makes me really happy about the episode. But it's just a fun ride to go through, and all these characters are one-off characters that are introduced. Like they don't end up popping up again or anything like that. But I like I do like the chase animation. That's one thing I really like about Cowboy Bebop is I know they might go a little long in some cases when they're really showing the distance scale with things like trains particularly. But I just like the style that they use of that, and again, like the car chase with Coffee driving the car and stuff like that, and them kind of battling it out on the top of the train is a really fun, I guess, kind of alternative set piece to maybe the one we've seen prior to this.
Yeah, because it's there's a scooter involved. There's a train,
A rocket scooter,
train, and just even on foot, kind of bit. So yeah, it is silly, and then of course you get even a little bit of conversation with a corgi and a bovine creature.
Oh, yeah.
It is all sorts of silly.
Yeah. I do like the start of the episode though too, with the whole the ration that's gone missing, and how mad everyone is at each other, and then just how relieved Jed is later when he realizes that it was expired by a year, and then how Faye just wanders off screen is like, ooh, and how he has a good chuckle over that because he's constantly stealing food.
Divine justice.
It still doesn't beat the line when he's like, hey, the world really is a great place.
Goodness gracious. Is there anything in this episode you are kind of meh or don't like?
Yeah, like I said, not really. I mean, I guess at one point it would be interesting to see what was Jet's actual hallucination, like what was going on in his head. Because you can remember he's like smearing the lipstick on his face and stuff too.
Right.
Like where was Jet going? Where was he off to, kind of thing. But Ed is fine in this. Like it's nice that it's not just focused on Ed's not an easy character to just completely only focus on, I find. Ed needs set pieces to make the character work, and that works out a lot in here. And Ein finally gets something to do a little bit more too. Because Ein's just there a lot.
Right.
I think the last time Ein really did anything would have been the Is that sympathy for the devil with the alien thing? Is that episode? With the goo with Spike left the lobster in the fridge.
That's not Sympathy for
the
the
Devil. Toys in the Attic. Sorry,
Toys in the Attic.
That's
yeah.
Ein really hasn't done a ton since then. I feel like.
Yeah, not really.
So Ein finally kind of gets something to hear when Ein eats that first mushroom, kind of helping out Ed along the way. So.
All right.
Maybe the cops are kind of shoehorned in a little bit.
Yeah, the one that gets that extra scene after is just like, okay.
Yeah. Doesn't really feel that necessary.
Right. Yeah, it could have just been that, you know.
But I guess they had to show that those were edible mushrooms and stuff at the end. And...
Oh, that one. That's yeah, that one's fine.
One?
The one with coffee there.
Oh, when he gets on
interrogating. Yeah. Sally. Yeah, it's like.
Yeah. All
right, dude.
They could have just had her like behind bars and then just walking by, and then she could have just busted out or something.
Right.
So, yeah, I think I'm good. I don't know if you have anything else.
Yeah, no, I am good as well.
I guess Domino's kind of he's kind of in the middle, I guess, for me.
Yeah, he doesn't leave really much of an impression.
Yeah, not really. Like, I find the Shaft brother and Coffee are a lot more interesting.
Yeah, he's just kind of like, okay. Yeah, he doesn't really
very interesting
move the needle.
Not really.
In any way, yeah. So, yeah, so you caught this. I didn't either. I just missed it or something. But I guess there was a 1.2 million bounty there on a Domino.
There was on Mr. Domino Walker for selling illegal mushrooms.
Yeah, and so I would probably give this one maybe like a. I am not as, I guess, how to put this. I'm not as moved by silliness. if that makes sense. Silliness is fine, like, but I guess it's like I can be silly too, so I don't really. It's not as much of a thing that I gravitate towards, if that makes sense. So I'd give this a 1.8 million. Like, I don't hate it or anything. It's just like it's good. Yeah,
that's not a bad score at all.
Yeah,
I guess you've kind of come around a bit on it then.
Yeah. I used to just be like, oh, I hate this episode. This is just because I didn't like Ed and stuff, and it's just like, this is just, but, yeah, I've been a bit more willing to not be so, I guess judgmental maybe, or just, stick in the mud, so.
Softened up on it a bit. Okay, well, I'll go with a 3 million bounty on this one, because I do like it a lot, and it's a nice reprieve from all of the doom and gloom and sort of, haunted pasts and everything, so it's just kind of nice to throw this one in the mix and just have some fun and kind of get back to business as we follow to the coming episode.
Yeah, I think that's a good point about it, is that, it is the one-off, and it isn't like you get lost in this.
Yeah.
And then just kind of, and I think that's where I feel, I guess, that I'm always like, I feel like I see people struggle with, is that they get lost in this and then they just spiral there for a long time, and then maybe, hopefully kind of fly out of it. But, I don't know. Sometimes it feels like it just sort of keeping that holding pattern. You're like, come on now. So.
Yep.
All right. So, yeah, that is it for our episode 17 Mushroom Samba talk. I know some people really, really like this episode. Definitely let us know. Maybe there's other things that you like that we didn't really touch on. That yeah, or maybe you're kind of on sort of my side of being a stick in the mud and being like, no, not really my thing. Either way, let us know. Any last comments?
No, I'm good to move on.
All right, then move on we shall. So thanks for listening, and see you, Space Cowboy.